Let's talk about my 10 worst books of 2025. Looking at this list, I will say that there are too many romances on here, and I apparently have very unpopular opinions because a lot of these have great reviews. But let's get the hate out so we can start 2026 on a new and better path, and maybe you guys can give me some recommendations so I have a lot less 1 stars. My first book is The Serviceberry by Robin Creamer. Now this book just isn't what I thought it would be. I thought based on the cover and based on her background that this would be a lot more about the actual serviceberry plant and how that plant provides for the environment, the birds, and then of course a little bit commentary on how we could use that kind of tree and that kind of ecosystem to benefit ourselves and our community rather than kind of economically. However, there was basically no research on the nature or anything like that. That was such a small part. This really is just a critique. And I agree with what the writer is saying. I have a lot of critiques on capitalism myself. However, I just thought this was a very simplistic take and it wasn't adding anything new to the conversation. And also for 112 pages, it was really repetitive, like nauseatingly repetitive. Also just felt like she wanted to use the word socialism, but was like afraid to use it or just didn't use it. The reason I say this is because she even brings up Nordic countries, but she says people call it cuddly capitalism. And who says that? And like, you can't group all the Nordic countries in together anyways, because they do have difference in how they operate. So I just felt like this was very much just like personal opinion with not that much research involved, and so it didn't really work for me. I'd rather have read more about like the actual service of plant and how it provides for the environment and something about nature than kind of just her thoughts on capitalism. I will say I gave it 2 stars because there are some articles and researchers that she lists that sound really interesting. The next one I have is another 2 stars. It is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Fernet. This book, I've never hated a character quite like I hate this character. Oh my god, it's about Olga. She's lost her husband. Her husband's abandoned her for a younger woman, and she just spirals into madness. In fact, she thinks she's locked herself in her apartment. And I understand that this book is more about like the grief and the loss of her identity because she's given so much of herself to marriage and motherhood. But I just couldn't with Olga. I really couldn't. First off, your husband leaves you for a younger woman, but not just any younger woman. This is the woman, or the girl you caught him with when she was underage. And you guys had to move away because of that whole situation. So like, why are we mourning this man? Why are we trying to get this man back? Why are we blaming the woman for your husband's behavior? All of that is just super wild to me. And then on top of that, like, I get kids are really hard, so I almost, maybe this is bad to say, I almost like, okay, you're neglectful to your children, borderline abusive. But the way she treated her dog was just like, no. That's just like, I guess, a personal line. I have pets. I just can't imagine treating my dog like that, no matter what hard time I'm going through. So I absolutely hated it. And when she's spiraling, it reads like a fever dream, and she's just so unlikable. And not in like a good way to hate, just like, I didn't want to pick this book up anymore kind of way. Like, this is a very short book, and it took me weeks to get through because I hated her so much. I'd read a line and like have to put it down. And in fact, I only got through it because I had to have a drink of wine just to finish it. And I just wanted to finish it to like find out what happens. And I wish it ended worse for Olga. I don't think any of these people deserved a happy ending. So, sounds like a 1 star. I only gave it 2 star though, because like, there are points in this book where the writing is very well done. I think this writer definitely can write. She's one of the few on this list I would give another try. I just hated this book. Or, well, I hated this character. Then at number 8, we have One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Now this one is on me, okay? This is a very popular romance book, and I can kind of see why it's popular. I just should have known from the synopsis that it was 100% not for me. Because basically it's about August, who falls in love with a mysterious Jane who's stuck on the subway line, literally stuck on the subway line. So it has this really cool magical realism part to it. However, I guess I forgot that I would not like PDA on a public transportation system. Like, I don't even like when you talk on the bus. So of course I'm not gonna like when someone's having a full-blown relationship on the bus. That's obviously gonna give me the huge ick. I just couldn't, like, what do you mean you're hooking up on the New York subway station? Ew, stop it, no. And I think because that's like obviously the main point and it's a romance, it's gonna focus on that. I couldn't with the rest of the novel. A lot of people like the found family in this with like her friend group, but I just couldn't care. Found them kind of cheesy. Again, they were like throwing a party on the public transportation system. I don't want to hear you talk. Then there's like the gentrification problem of the neighborhood, but I just felt like it wasn't New York anyways, so I didn't care about this imaginary neighborhood. Then it was like, we're saving this like local restaurant and hangout spot, and again it was like, I just don't care, because again, I just can't get around that whole premise of what's going on. So definitely give this a try if that part doesn't bother you. If it does, don't try it, because it's obviously a big part of it, and it is gross. It is. So, just not for me. Probably should have known it. Shouldn't have picked it up. I blame myself. The next one I have on my list is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. I actually did buy this one, so I have it. Such a beautiful cover. It sounded so promising. What it's supposed to be, and I think this is a great example of like misleading marketing, is a retelling of Medusa, but this time from like a feminist viewpoint, so that Medusa actually gets a voice. And that sounded so interesting. However, that's not this book. She does not get a voice in this book. This is just the same telling of Medusa, and in fact everyone else gets a point of view. And when I mean everyone else, I mean it. A crow has a point of view in this book. The author inserts herself into the book. She gets a point of view in the book. And I'm pretty sure like Medusa's dead head has more of a point of view than like Medusa alive ever did in this book. So it really wasn't what I want. I don't like this many multiple point of views. I think it really slowed down the story, and it just didn't tell what I thought I was going to get. So I was quite disappointed with this book. The writing's not bad, it's just not my style or my format, so I think I'd be hard pressed to read this author again, because from what I've heard, this is just kind of what she does. She tells these mythology stories through a ton of point of views, and I'd rather just read the actual history or read a different book. So again, not for me. Next up, we have number 6, Altered Carbon by Richard Morgan. This is an interesting one because I actually liked the concept. It's a sci-fi. Basically, your consciousness is like in a stack in your neck. So technically, you don't have to die, especially if you're rich, because you just take your consciousness out and put it in another body, another clone, or as they call it, like a sleeve, and you're up and running again. And basically in this book, a very rich man hires ex-con Kovac out of jail to solve his murder. Basically, when he was in his last stack, his last sleeve, he was murdered and he wants to know who did it. So super interesting mystery, super interesting sci-fi. However, my problem with this book is the writing. It is a very like 2000s edge lore, edge humor, hyper-violence, hypersexuality, and it did not work for me at all. Within 100 pages, there's a pretty gross sex scene, and every time he describes women, it makes me cringe. It's just way over the top. They're just basically bouncing props, and he explains the same woman over and over again in the same way, and I couldn't get over that part. Now, there is a potential that the audiobook made it a lot worse, and I could have maybe liked it a little bit more if I had read it, but I'm not willing to give it another try. It's also, I know, a TV show. I got like a jump scare. Someone put it on. When I heard the name Kovac, I was like, I can't watch this. Don't want anything to do with it, and it's a series, I won't be reading anymore. I don't think this author has any other books other than this, but clearly just not for me. Next up, we have at number 5, The Prison Healer. This is a super popular book, so again, this is maybe just me. But this book is a YA fantasy about Kiva. She lives at this notorious death prison, and she's in charge of the infirmary, and she has to help save the rebel queen, who is sent to the prison and is very, very ill. Now, she's so ill that Kiva actually, in order to save her, volunteers to do the trials or ordeal. All this sounds like there would be exciting setup, but everything is incredibly slow-paced. You're basically in Kiva's mind the whole time. Even the trials or ordeal, which is life or death, are very anticlimactic, super short and quickly through, and then you're just back into Kiva's mind again. And I don't think I'm just the one saying this. I think if you even look at good reviews, a lot of them say the same thing, that the pacing is slow, but they're like, but wait until the ending. The ending is amazing. So I like push through to get to this ending, and I don't get it. It's a twist just for the sake of twisty and like shock. But the fact is, it doesn't make any sense. We are in Kiva's mind the whole time. Why would we never be given this information? Why would she never say this? Why would she never think this? In fact, she kind of like does the opposite. So it just does not make any sense to me. So if you did read it, you did like it, you did like the ending, can you please explain it to me? How we wouldn't have known that already? So yeah, it's a no even with the ending. But to be honest, even if I did like the ending, I don't think an ending should make up for the majority of the book not being good. So I'm definitely not continuing this series. Another author I probably wouldn't read again, because just reading like reviews of like the following books and other books, I think this is a common theme where she just basically tries to shock you the last like 25%. And again, I just don't think that that little bit of the ending makes up for like a 300-page book. So that's a no. Number 4, we have That Summer Feeling by Bridget Morrissey. This one should have been a really fun, sapphic romance where they go to summer camp and they have fun, maybe realize some things about themselves, but overall super summery fun feeling. But I didn't get that from this book. I felt this book took itself a little too seriously. It had great themes like finding out about one's sexuality, overcoming fears and things, but it was just way too serious and too quick, especially because everything has to happen within 1 week. And obviously the romance is going to be insta-lovey because they have to do it in 1 week. And I really hated that, and I hated how inside the head Garland, our main character, was. I hated that everything was kind of about her and what she was going through and what her realizations were, and it just wasn't fun. I also found all the characters pretty immature and surface level, so like trying to dive into deeper issues with that cast didn't work either for me, so I was just left kind of bored and disappointed by this. I don't think the writing's bad. I think I would give this author another try. This particular story just didn't work for me. And maybe because I thought I would like it so much, I was a little disappointed, more disappointed than some of the other books on this list. So that's why it's at the number 4 spot for me. And actually, I gotta say, Garland's probably my number 2 least favorite character. She's just really kind of boring and dull, and again, way too much inside her head for me. Number 3, we have Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. Another book that I bought. I bought this because I wanted to read more sports romances because I love sports. So I thought this was a mix of genre that I could really like. However, I think from this book I learned that maybe a lot of these or some of these are very romance heavy, and the sports is more kind of just like set dressing, plot device, but they don't really care about the sports at all. They're either not mentioned or are pretty inaccurate, and I just found that with this book it's purely just set dressing. Like, I don't even think it's worth reading you the back of the synopsis of this book because it's such a small part of the book. Basically, all this is a romance between a college hockey player and a college ice skater and their little dramas as they get to know and fall in love. That's basically it. What's on the back is so small, it's not worth mentioning. And then again, when I say like the things in it are inaccurate, I'm talking about they, for some reason, set it in LA. So a D1 division hockey school is in California. The best one's in California. Why? Why not just put it in a hockey state? It doesn't make a difference, except, I guess, to me. And then when they mention scores, it's like 13-9. Like, yeah, that's totally normal score for hockey. Like, why? Or like the figure skater goes from pairs to singles just like super easy. Like, that's a normal thing to do. Or that she's in college for like developing towards the Olympics, when again, that's not what would happen. You would be part of the American development team, more likely. And I don't like that. I also think if you're going to do, like, it's just about college and fun, like, why not just make them an intramural hockey player, an intramural figure skater? Why do they have to be, like, an NHL player and an Olympian? Like, I just think that makes it even more unrealistic, and I'm just checked out at that point. And I guess on top of that, I nitpicked this so badly because I also didn't care about the romance at all. Didn't care about the spice. Just didn't like it. And again, if the sports doesn't matter and all that doesn't matter, why make me read so much of it? Just make it shorter. Make it about the romance. Just make it a college experience. The sports added nothing to this. So I think moving forward, I will have to be more picky with those kind of romances. I think I need something that's more like sports with like a subplot of romance. I think the one that I read that I liked would be something like The Favorites. This was still super dramatic and super fun, but it was like sports heavy with a subplot of romance. And I will say I even started disliking this probably towards the end when the romance kind of took front and center. But otherwise, this is kind of more what I'm looking for, I think, for sports romances. You live and learn. And if you like it, I completely understand. Again, I think this is a me thing. I just really like sports, and if I'm picking up something about sports, I want it to be about sports. But at number 2, we have Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This is one of the worst audiobooks I have ever had the displeasure of listening to. Even if this is on your T-bar or you want to, that's perfectly fine, but I'm begging you, do not listen to this audiobook, okay? And this is about Bella. She's an 8-year-old girl who is being haunted by this demonic spirit called Other Mommy. And I don't think Josh Malerman has ever been around children, because this 8-year-old definitely sounds and acts more like a very annoying 4-year-old. The parents are also absolutely dreadful. They talk to this poor little girl like they're her therapist, and they're just truly inept. Like, they're just bad parents throughout this whole book. It also gets really repetitive. So at first I really liked Other Mommy. I thought she was creepy, and I thought, oh, this could be a good horror, but it repetitive over and over again, same thing. The characters became insufferable, and honestly, I was just rooting for Other Mommy to finally kill everyone so it could just be over. I know he has other books that are apparently really good, but you'd have to really convince me to read anything else, because I truly hated that one. At number 1, we have When We Cease to Understand the World by Benjamin Lobato. Now, first off, I want to petition Goodreads to take off the nonfiction, because it's not. I understand it's nonfiction because he uses real scientists and he looks at kind of their findings that change the world and how they interconnect and whether it was for the good or the worse. But everything else in between that he writes about their life, how they came to these conclusions, is completely fictionalized. And I think it's worse that that nonfiction tag is there because he doesn't specifically state he fictionalized it till the very end. So if you didn't know, I would hate for someone to be like, this is how it really happened, because it's not at all. He basically just fictionalizes all of this to make a point that he thinks that genius and these scientific discoveries came from madness. Like, genius and madness are synonyms to each other. It's art, it's madness, and completely forgets like the scientific rigor it takes, the peer review their findings take before they are broadly approved and broadly used. And I hated what he did. I hated the point he's trying to make. If you have to fictionalize and sensationalize things to make your point, then maybe you don't have one. And I think the real like tipping point for me to make this like the worst book I've ever read is when he kind of sensationalized and romanticized Schrodinger's pedophilia as like a beautiful vision that he had, or helped to make his beautiful vision so he can make these beautiful discoveries, was my last straw. I just absolutely can't stand this book. Usually I don't judge people for what they like, and if you like this, that's fine. However, the fact that this is on the 100 books of the century list, why? That just feels a tad bit pretentious to me. But those are all the books that I hated this year. Hate might be a strong word, but those are the books I disliked the most. I am looking to have a little bit more success in some of these genres next year, and hopefully I know my tastes a little bit better so I can have a few less 1 stars. But if you have any comments, if you think there's books that I would like, or authors I should give another chance, or if you'd like to tell me how much you disagree with me, feel free in the bottom, because, you know, I told you my opinion. You might as well tell me yours. We'll see you in the next one.